Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Matthew Ward, and today we are inside of Pixlr X. So what I want to show you in today's video is how we can take these three individual images and combine them all together to create this professional looking book cover. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Pixlr, Pixlr is a browser-based photo editor which can get some really great professional results. And best of all, it is completely free to use. So if you want to follow along with this tutorial, I will leave you the link in the description. So before we get started, I just want to say thank you to Pixlr for sponsoring today's video, as well as giving me another resource to teach design to complete beginners. So when we first go to the Pixlr website, you are going to be presented with two different options here. Over on the left hand side, we have the Pixlr X, and over to the right, we have the Pixlr E. And the differences between these are stated right here. The Pixlr X is a quick and easy design, and this is what we are going to work in today. Over to the right hand side, we've got the advanced photo editor, and this is something that we may visit in another video when you feel a bit more confident with what you've learned in this tutorial. But for now, we'll just go ahead and select the Pixlr X. And you can confirm that you are inside the Pixlr X just in this top left hand corner over here. So although I did state earlier that this is completely free to use, which it is, they do also offer some premium features for a monthly subscription cost. And what that includes is stock images, which we will find down here. And this is just a case of typing anything that you want to search for up here in the search bar menu, then importing any of these images into your project. And as we can see over on the right hand side, it says we have more than 175 million stock images. And you are completely free to use these however you like if you have that monthly subscription. As well as the stock images, we have access to some premium templates. So these are really good for any of you guys that may have your own business and just want to create a quick banner for your website or social media just to promote some products. You can just go ahead and choose any of these up here for what it is you're trying to create. So if we choose that Instagram post, and you can see we have all these different options inside of here, and all we've got to do is double tap on these to open them. Then it is just a case of start removing and replacing some of the content in here with your own. So you can see right here, this one says free. That one says free as well. This one says free. And like I stated, if you do have the monthly subscription, you will have access to some premium ones of these, which are always going to look better. So if I just go ahead and try and hover over some of these, and we can see right there, that one is a premium one with the crown. And that's how you're going to distinguish which is going to be free and which is going to be premium. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with this project. So if we go back up to the home page on the top left hand side, then from here we're going to head over to the center of the page where we have the option to either open an image, create new, or load URL. If you to choose load URL, that is how you're going to direct to an external website if you want to bring in an image from there. However, this isn't something we're going to use in this tutorial, so what we are going to choose is create new. So once we select that, you can see we've got a few templates in here that we can choose from. And just like in the template section, you'll find that we do have some premium features, but for the most part, most of these are free. So if you can't find anything in here that you want in terms of the size for your design, then we just go over to the right hand side and put this in manually. And this is what we're going to do for this tutorial, as they don't have a template for the book cover size that I want to create. So in terms of the width and height, with the width, we are going to choose 1538. And with the height, we are going to choose 2438. And this is going to give us a 8x5 book cover. So if you guys want a different size cover for this, then feel free to go ahead and change these numbers. You may have to go onto Google and search for popular book sizes and then convert that from centimeters or inches into pixels, as Pixlr does not give us the option to choose either centimeters or inches or points. But for now, I'm just going to leave that the way it is for my 8x5. So if I tap on this background option below, this is where we can change the color of the background. If we don't select any of these colors, it's going to be transparent. But for me, I like to work on a white background, so I'm going to select that white color. And you can give yourself a name up here if you want to. For now, I'm going to leave this, but I will save it later on down the line. So with your numbers in here that you want in terms of your size and your background color, let's go down here and hit the create button. So now we are inside of the main interface of Pixlr X. And over on the left hand side, we have all these different options that we're going to talk about as we go along with the tutorial. But just to get started, the first thing that we want to do is import some images. So if we come over to the right hand side to our layers option, we're going to select this plus box right there, or rectangle. And inside of here, we are going to choose image. Then that will navigate to your computer hard drive where you can find some images that you may want to bring in. So these 3 images that I'm using today, I've got from Pexels.com, and these are free to use stock images. And you can also use these however you like. All that they require is that you just link back to the original author to give them credit. Or if you used to publish these into a book, maybe just put their name at the bottom of the image or somewhere on the back of the book. So with that said, the first image I'm going to import into our project is going to be the girl in the center here. So once I highlight her, I'm going to go down to the bottom right hand corner and select upload. That then will import the image into our project. Then what we need to do is come over to the left hand side and just select this unlock icon right there. That then is going to give us the option to start moving this image around, as well as resize that and add some effects. So I'm just going to put that roughly in the center. I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger by selecting one of these boxes in the corner. I'm going to hold down shift on my keyboard just to lock my proportions to keep that perfect as I start to make it larger. Then I'm just going to recenter that again, and I think I'm quite happy with that size for the moment. So what we want to do next is now cut her out from this background, and the way that we would do that is by coming over to the little scissor icon on the left hand side, which is called our cutout menu. Then inside of this, we have a few different tools that we can use to cut her out of the background. And first of all, I'm going to address any of you guys that may be on the free version of Pixlr and show you how you can do this. And that is going to be either using the magic cutout or the draw cutout. So if we first of all select the magic cutout and we go down to where it says mode and we make sure that we are on remove, then underneath that we have our tolerance level, and this is going to determine how much of the background it cuts away and keeps. So I think I'll bring that down just a little bit to maybe around 20. Then with the softness, we're just going to leave that the way it is. So all we got to do now is just head over to the image and start tapping away on the background to some of the areas that we want to remove. So if I start here on the left hand side, start tapping that and just keep making your way around the image and getting some of these big areas. So straight away you can see that we're starting to lose detail in the vest right here, as well as on the arm and on other various parts of the image. So what we need to do is start bringing this back. And the way that we would do that is going back over to the left hand side, and inside of the mode menu, we're now going to change that to keep. And if you go back over and start selecting back on the area, that will bring it back. However, you may want to lower your tolerance once again, just so it doesn't start bringing in the background. Come back over and just start tapping this back in. And as you can see, this is never going to be perfect and can be very tedious and a lot of back and forth. So this isn't really the best way I'd recommend in bringing your image back. Instead, I recommend you start bringing your details back using the draw cutout. But before we go ahead and select that, I just want to come down to the bottom here and just hit undo and just take that back a few steps, just to probably around this point. Then we'll make our way back over to the left hand side and we're going to choose this other tool, which is draw cutout. We're going to make sure on the mode that we are on keep. And with our brush size, we're going to make that a little bit bigger. And the softness I'm going to drag all the way down to the bottom. And now it's just a case of start painting back over this image to bring it all back together, just like that. And then just keep making your way around all the areas that may be missing. And like I stated, this can be really tedious and take you a while if you want to get it perfect. Or the other option is to use the draw cutout from the very beginning. So if we just come back down to the undo and just take that all the way back to where we first started with the background intact. And all we've got to do at this point is make sure that we are on remove. Maybe just make our brush size a little bit smaller. And you just start drawing around your image that way. And if you guys have got a graphics tablet, you're going to make this a lot easier and quicker in terms of cutting this out. And you just got to continue doing this all around the image and get as close as you can. With the softness, this is when you're going to want to start to adjust that. Bring that up a little bit as you get closer to the hair, as it's going to do a much better job of softening that around the edges so it looks a little bit more authentic. Then once you've cut around all your image and you've got close enough to all the edges that you're happy with, then all you got to do is change the softness once again, bring your brush size up and start removing the rest of the background. So that is how you would start cutting out the image from the background if you guys are on the free version of Pixlr. But what I'm going to do at this point is go back down to undo. I'm going to get that image back to the original state. And I'm going to show you just how quick and easy we can do this if you guys have the premium version. And that is going to be by simply selecting this AI cutout option just up here. Once we select this, it's going to remove the background automatically for us. And you'll see just how much time this will save you. So if we select this option right now and let it do its magic, you can see just how much of a great job that has actually done. But at this point, it's worth mentioning that Pixlr do offer a 30-day free trial if any of you guys want to check out any of these premium features. So now moving on with the design, the next thing that we want to do is bring in our second image. So if we go back over to the right hand side, we select our add layer button right there. And once again, we're going to choose image. This time round, I'm going to choose the house. So I'm going to select that one and upload that. This time round, we don't have to unlock the layer as it's automatically done it for us. Instead, all I'm going to do now is just resize this. So I'm going to drag that roughly down there out of the way a little bit, just so I can grab this handle right there while holding down shift, just so I can make that big enough to fit my canvas. I'm going to make that roughly around that size. Then just start dragging this across and positioning that where I may want to put it. So there is going to be fine. What I want to do next is make sure that she is on top of this image, and we'll do that just over in the layers, just by selecting that background layer and just dragging it underneath her. Then at this point, we can always come back and start moving things around a little bit more if you're not happy with the placement. So what we want to do next before bringing in that final image is just changing some of these colors just to blend them in together and make it look a little bit more authentic. And we'll first do that with selecting the girl first of all. So if we select her over in the layers, then we're going to come over to the left hand side, and we are inside of this menu at the top here, which is called our arrange and style. And what we've got inside of here is the adjustments, the effects, the cutout. Basically anything you see down here, they're all just shortcuts to get to these menus. But I always find it a little bit more convenient and better just to work inside of this section. So first of all, we're going to go into the adjust option where we can start messing with our colors. We're going to select that color box right there. Then the first thing I'm going to do is just bring down the saturation just a little bit, just so it blends in a little bit better into the scene in the background. And maybe just lower that temperature slightly. Then just slightly bring that vibrance up just a little bit. Somewhere around 15 will be fine. Then I'm going to go down to where it says light. And what I want to do at this point is make my darks a little bit darker. So I'm going to start with the blacks. Just bring that up a little bit. And once again with the shadows, bring that up a little bit. Then beneath that, we have this details section. And what I want to do in here is just sharpen the image. And this is dependent on what you like in terms of how sharp you want this to look. For me, I'm going to have this maybe around 15. And as for the rest of this, I'm going to leave it for now as I'm quite happy with the way this looks. So the general look I'm going for here is kind of that urban cinematic look. So what I want to do next is now adjust the colors of the background image. So if we go ahead and select that one, and we're going to come in and do the exact same thing that we did before. We're going to make our blacks a little bit darker on the background image as well. Maybe around 20. Do the same with the shadows. Bring it up a little bit. Find something that you're happy with. Then we'll go and adjust that saturation. Bring that down a little bit just so that bit of grass in the background isn't so dominant. And just slightly adjust that temperature just a little bit. And this time round, we don't want to sharpen the image in the background, as what we're actually going to do is blur this out just to give it that kind of depth of field effect that you get from a professional camera. So if we just go down to where it says blur, and we're just going to bring this up just a little bit to find something you're happy with. For me, I think that looks pretty good around 15, so I'm going to leave it there. So that's looking pretty good so far. And what we're going to do now is just bring in that final image, which is going to be our sky. But first of all, before we do that, we need to cut out the sky from this image in the background. So with that one selected once again, we're going to go back over to the cutout menu. And this time around, we can't choose AI cutout, as this isn't generally going to know what it is that we're trying to cut out from this background image. So we're going to have to do this manually. And we'll go ahead and use that with the magic cutout, as this should do a pretty good job of removing the sky. So if we come back over now, just start selecting this area and just get rid of all of that. And if it's not taking out enough for you, just make your tolerance a little bit higher. And then just start tapping that again and hopefully take out a bigger section. And there may be some areas you're going to have to touch up once we bring in the other sky, but we'll worry about that in just a moment. For now, I'm just going to grab my brush and get rid of these bigger areas. And now we can bring in that other sky. So if we go back over to our layers, select image, and we just find that sky image right there and bring that in once again. And now we'll move that into position. So I'm going to drag that up. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger by dragging that handle while holding down shift. Then we'll come over to the layers on the right hand side and make sure we drag that all the way to the bottom so it sits in the background. And then we can just move that over to position that roughly where you want it to go. Then next, we'll adjust some of the colors on here. So if we come back over to the adjustments, we're going to go down and change the blacks to make them a little bit darker and do the same with the shadows. And we'll go down once again to the details, and we're going to blur that out just a little bit as it is in the background. So around 25 will be perfectly fine. I'm going to go back up to the saturation. I'm going to bring that down just a little bit, but not too much, as that is going to be a natural light source. So it should be bright anyway. So like I said earlier, there are some areas here that we need to touch up around the roof, which looks pretty bad. So if we just quickly select that layer and go back to our cutout option, then inside of here, we'll just make sure that we are on the draw cutout tool. And with the brush size, we're going to make that a lot smaller as we're going around the edges of the roof. So maybe around 90 will be perfectly fine. And with the softness, I want to bring that back up to around 50%, just so that blends it in a little bit better with the background. Then it's just a case of start drawing around this and get as close as you can to this. And just taking out all these rough edges, as you can see around the house. So I've just paused the video while I just quickly went around this roof and tidied up these edges a little bit. It's not perfect, but it will do just for this demonstration. I've also changed the colors just a little bit on the image just to give it more of a dynamic effect for me. So all we got to really do now is just start adding our text. So if we come back over to the left hand side and we are going to choose our add text. Then inside of here, we have all these different ready-made templates. And once again, there's some premium versions. So you guys can have a little look through here, see if there's anything that you like. For me personally, I wouldn't add this kind of thing onto a book cover. So I'm going to go ahead and just create my own. And the way that we would do that is by selecting the add new text up the top here. Then all we got to do in here is just write our title inside of the text field, choose our font, give that a color, and change the size and the alignment and all them other kind of things. So first of all, we'll go ahead and create our title. Then I'm going to choose a font that I like in here. So you guys are free to go through all of these and find something that you may want to use. I chose this retro one right here. So I'm going to have that the color white. I'm going to make this size a lot bigger, maybe around 250. And at the moment, this text is behind our subject. So we need to go over to our layers and move that just on top of her, just like that, so we can see it. Then I'm just going to drag that down into place. So I'm going to put that somewhere towards the bottom, maybe around there. Then what I want to do next is give that a drop shadow. So we're going to come back over to the left-hand side, go down to where it says shadow. Then inside of here, we just need to give that a color. So I'm going to go for black. And I'm going to adjust that distance. I'm going to bring it a bit closer to the text. Bring that opacity up so we can see it. And just bring that blur down just slightly, just to make it a little bit more dominant. And that will be perfectly fine for this example. Then once again, we're going to add another text title, which is going to be above this, and that can be your author name. So another way that we could do this is by going over to the right-hand side, and we can just choose add layer, and inside of here, we can choose text. And once again, just go ahead and do the same thing over on your left-hand side. So I'm going to type in here your author name. This time round, I think I'm going to have a different font for this one. So I'm going to go for something that looks a little different. Maybe that one right there. I'm going to give this a different color somewhere in that orange range. Always looks nice. And we're going to make that a lot bigger as well, maybe around 100. And I'm going to drag that down once again and see if that fits on the top. That's a little bit too big for what I was going for. So I'll shrink that down just a little bit. Maybe go for around 90. I want that to roughly fit the same size of this text in the width. And it's definitely trial and error just to get your numbers correct here. So I'm going to leave this at 82 just to speed it up a little bit, but that's not too bad. I think 83 may be the better size for that, but I'm going to leave it the way it is. So then next we can add ourselves a subtitle at the top of this book cover. So once again, we'll just go over and add a new layer over in our layers and get the text. And back over here, and we'll just write in a little subtitle. So I just wrote some things are best left forgotten, but you are free to write anything you like in here. I'm also going to change this font and maybe have it the same as what we had on that orange one. So that's going to be that font right there. And I'll go ahead and make this bigger, maybe put that around 100. And I'll go ahead and just adjust this border width so we can try and get that to sit in the center of the image. And just shrink that text just a little bit so I know it's going to fit in one line. So 70 is looking pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and move that up the page to the top of the design, somewhere around there. And in fact, I think I'll go just a little bit smaller. This is me being a little bit too precise. So I'm going to go for around 68. And at this point, you guys are free to add your drop shadows on both these other titles if you want, but I'm going to leave them the way they are. Then next, I'm going to attach a kind of sticker over here on the right-hand side, which states award-winning bestseller. So once again, we'll just go ahead and create ourselves a new text file. Then we'll come over here once again to the left-hand side and we'll type in award-winning bestseller. And I'll keep that same font that we had on the other two titles. So it's that one right there. And I'll go ahead and make that just a little bit bigger, maybe around 55. And I'll drag that over to roughly where I want to place it. So I'm going to put that around here. And what I want to do underneath this 2022 is add 5 stars. So if we double click inside of here and hit enter, if you guys are on a Mac, all you need to do is go up to edit on your browser, go down to emoji and symbols, and we can find some stars in here. So I'm going to select that one right there. Then I'm going to make a copy of this with Command or Control C. Then just paste another one next to it and just keep pasting until I've got 5 of them. And that is how quickly we can get some stars. Then I'll just come back off that so we can put it into position. So I'll move that slightly over there just a little bit. And then I'm just going to draw myself a shape around the outside of this. So once again, if we just go back over to our layers and we select add layer and we go for a shape. Over in the left hand side, we have some different shape options such as a circle or the rounded rectangle. I'm going to choose a rounded rectangle. I'm going to put the radius all the way up to 100. I'm going to give that a fill of black. I'm not going to give it a shadow or an outline. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. That black didn't work there, so I'll try that again. There we go. And then I'm just going to go ahead and try and resize that a little bit to fit around the text. Then I'll just move that behind it. And then just try and resize that just to look better. And then just use your snapping guides at this point, which are going to be your green ones right there. Then what I want to do is just drop the opacity a little bit on this shape. So if we come back over to the layers and we choose a shape layer, we select the 3 little dots right there. All we've got to do is come down to where it says opacity and change that number. So I'm going to go for around 70. And I'm quite happy with that. So there is a finished version if you're happy to leave it the way it is at the moment. But one thing I do want to do before I wrap this up is I want to globally edit this. And what I mean by that is I want to combine all 3 of these images into one file so I can edit the colors all together. But you guys are free to skip that step if you like. However, at this point, if you guys want to be able to come back to this project at any point and access all of these individual layers, just so you can always add and remove anything that you want to later, then I recommend that you go ahead and save your file down here with the save button. Then just make sure that you choose that PXZ format right there, as that is going to save this as a project file and it will keep all your layers intact so you can always come back and edit those later. Whereas if you use JPEG or PNG, that's going to flatten the image. So if you guys do have enough room on your computer, then go ahead and choose that non-destructive. I do recommend that. Then just simply select save as, give it a name, and that will download to your computer so you can always upload it later on if you ever need to use it again. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and continue with this just so I can globally edit this and finish the video. So like I said, I want to come over to these 3 images that we have over on the right hand side, and I'm going to merge these all down into one. And the way we're going to do that is go on the little 3 dots. We're going to go to where it says merge down, select that option. And now we can see that one has gone into the other one. Then we're going to go and do that again. So we're going to merge down. And now all 3 images are inside this one file. And with that done, all we've got to do now is go back over to the left hand side. We're going to open up our arrange and style once again, go back to the adjustments. Then we can just start messing with the temperature a little bit if you guys maybe want this more in the blue range, just to give it that kind of more urban effect, kind of like that, or scary movie looking kind of effect. Or you can go the other direction and make it a little bit warmer just to introduce some more of the skin tones. This is entirely up to you what you want to do with that. I recommend as well also just going into the light and maybe bringing your blacks just to be a little bit darker. So bring them up just a little bit, maybe around there, and just adjust your shadows just slightly. And another effect that I like is the vignette. So we could probably find that down here in the scene. And this is going to make all of our corners a bit darker. So if we just start to drag this up, you can see how it comes into effect. And I think this always looks more professional with this kind of design. So I'm going to leave that around 70. And I'm fairly happy with this. I think it looks pretty good for a book cover. So if you guys have now finished your project and you're happy to save this out, then we're going to go down to save. This time around, we're going to choose a JPEG option and we're going to give this a highest quality in case you guys want to print this. Go and choose save as, give that a name, hit apply, and then that will download that to your computer and then you have that saved and ready to use however you like. So I hope you found today's video useful. If you did, then please give me a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, as it really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm and helps other people find my content. And if you would like any more specific videos on Pixlr X, then let me know in the comments and I'll go ahead and make some for you. And if you are brand new to my channel, go ahead and check out all of my other videos on graphic design where I teach you all different techniques. But for now, I hope you have a great day and I will see you in the next video.